This is my brother right here, Dave Tesh.
I did not know that you had a brother.
Oh, yeah, you know, he's not just my brother, he's also the genius in the family.
Meanwhile, I'm blushing.
When Saturday Night Live debuted in 1975, its boundary-pushing cast was collectively known as the not-ready-for-primetime players. And in the 5 decades since, the series has continued to be a platform for fresh comedic voices. But every once in a while, it casts a comic who's not even ready for late night, much less primetime.
There's no basis for these boos.
This was arguably the case in 2012 when Tim Robinson made his debut on the show as a featured performer. It wouldn't go exactly how he had hoped, but absurd as it seems, he was about to fail his way to stardom.
You take this one alone, Johnny.
Well, what about you?
Don't you worry about me! This isn't the last you're gonna hear of old Dave Tesh!
If you are a fan of absurdist humor, then you are no doubt aware of the hit Netflix series, I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. And if you're not a fan of absurdist humor, then you'll probably at least recognize it as the source of this now ubiquitous internet meme. Debuting in April of 2019, I Think You Should Leave is a comedy sketch show that leans heavily into cringe humor and the surreal, making it a part of the same comic niche that includes other offbeat series like Tim and Eric, Awesome Show, Great Job, and The Eric Andre Show. And like those, it has become wildly popular with both fans and critics, turning its titular star into what seems like an overnight success. But as longtime fans of Saturday Night Live already know, Robinson didn't exactly appear out of nowhere. Tim Robinson was raised in and around Detroit, Michigan. After seeing a performance by the improvisational theater troupe Second City as a teenager, he signed up for weekly improv classes, later graduating to its world-famous main stage in Chicago. During his time with Second City, Robinson would become something of a fixture in the Chicago improv scene, and in 2011, he would land a regular role in the CBS sitcom Friend Me, which starred Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Despite earning a full series order, the show would never air due to the tragic death of its creator. That was undoubtedly a tough break, but Robinson was about to fail forward for the first time, because a potentially much bigger and better opportunity was right around the corner. That opportunity came because Second City is famous for being an unofficial training program for Saturday Night Live. The vaunted comedy sketch show has drawn an inordinate number of its cast members from the program. Robinson would also be drafted by SNL in 2012. Over the course of that season, Robinson would appear in a few memorable sketches like Z-Shirts and Round Ball Rock, while also delivering a serviceable impression of former Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Bill Cowher. But the differences between working on stage and working on live TV turned out to be much more significant than he expected. Overwhelmed by his role, he failed to make much of a mark as a performer, and the following season, he was dropped from the cast.
I cannot believe this!
You are making a big mistake! You guys stink, and this network is a dump!
He was not, however, dropped from the show entirely. Instead, producer Lorne Michaels offered Robinson the chance to complete the last 3 years of his contract as one of the series' full-time writers. It was a rare move, only having occurred once before in SNL's history when Brian Doyle Murray departed the cast for the writer's room in 1980. And as one might imagine, Robinson was less than thrilled about the whole thing. In his own words, the first year was really hard, and it shook my confidence. The most anything's ever shaken my confidence in comedy. I felt lost. Nonetheless, Robinson resolved to work hard in his new position, and he would spend the next 3 seasons in the writer's room, an experience that turned out to have some unexpected upsides. Since he would no longer be performing his skits himself, he became less worried about whether or not they bombed. That, in turn, encouraged him to get more creative with his writing. Of course, while SNL can occasionally veer into the bizarre, its comedy is generally written to play to a wide audience, and a number of Robinson's ideas were rejected for being too absurd. SNL doesn't typically reveal the writing credits for individual sketches, so we can't say for sure which ones he did contribute to, but it was during this stretch of his career that he learned how to channel his more eccentric impulses into a more television-friendly form. At the same time, he also began working on his skills as a television performer by making appearances on more absurdist shows. It probably wasn't the path he saw for himself when he first signed on as an SNL cast member, but Robinson would ultimately come to see his time working on the show as a confidence booster that helped hone his writing and producing skills.
To every week have that show to like challenge yourself and push yourself to try and make a room full of people who have seen every comedy move on the planet laugh was so fun for me, and it gave me confidence because I got to do that every week, and I made some of my best friends, and I really loved it there.
The SNL writer's room is also where he would meet his future writing partner, Zach Cannon. The two hit it off pretty quickly because, according to Robinson, we just have a very similar sensibility, and we're completely aligned on what we think is funny. Perhaps that's why in 2016, after SNL season 41 came to a close and Robinson's contract expired, they went to work on their own show. Created by the duo along with Sam Richardson and Joe Kelly, and co-produced by Lorne Michaels and SNL star Jason Sudeikis, Detroiters would debut on Comedy Central in February of 2017. The series starred Robinson and Richardson as a pair of dim-witted best friends trying to run a small Detroit advertising agency. It was celebrated by critics for its unique balance of purposefully dopey humor and surprisingly soulful character work. The show ultimately did well enough to earn a second season, but not a third. Detroiters wasn't a huge hit, but it did lay the stylistic groundwork for what came next.
Stop! 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 Please let me go! Please let me go first! I'm doing something!
I Think You Should Leave. The series is produced in conjunction with Lonely Island members Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone, who Robinson credits with helping find the show's tone and comedic rhythms. The roughly 15-minute installments generally get their laughs at the expense of obstinate characters who refuse to admit when they're wrong, to increasingly wacky results. It's a theme which naturally emerged from the sketches Robinson and Cannon wrote together. Robinson's now famous hot dog suit guy, who refuses to admit he's the owner of a hot dog-shaped car that crashed into a clothing store, is a prime example of the cringe-inducingly stubborn crackpots the show traffics in.
Find out whoever did this and punish him ourselves. Maybe take his bare butt out of his costume and spank him. Maybe you could do it, sir.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, you.
No.
But he's just one of many. Other such weirdos include a man inappropriately taking advantage of the liberal swearing policy on an adults-only ghost tour, a confused bass player who thinks his frontman needs help improvising lyrics to a new song, and a television spokesman trying to save his network from being dropped by a cable provider for showing hundreds of naked dead bodies in their programming.
I didn't do f***ing shit. I didn't rig shit. I've been waiting a long time for a hit on Corncob TV. I didn't f***ing do this.
Each character is stranger and more awkward than the last, yet they all somehow manage to retain a very sympathetic and relatable humanity.
You're saying we're allowed to swear. I'm saying big fat load of and horse and you're getting mad.
Many of those characters are performed by Robinson himself, but the show has also proven to be an ideal showcase for guest stars. Some more notable guests have included Tim Heidecker, Bob Odenkirk, Cicely Strong, and Will Forte, who made a particularly memorable appearance as an airline passenger seeking revenge against the now adult baby who cried through his flight decades earlier. It's the kind of absurd comedy that Robinson has always worked to create. In fact, according to the man himself, at least some of the sketches were originally written for SNL, but proved too out there for the iconic series.
It was so great to, things that didn't work on SNL, or it was so nice to be able to bring it back and be like, okay, it is okay. And I am okay.
He also credits Netflix, who he had previously worked with on the 2016 sketch comedy show The Characters, for supporting his strange sensibilities so completely that even he was shocked. And it's no wonder why they have. I Think You Should Leave has penetrated the cultural consciousness in a way few comedy sketch shows have ever achieved. That success has already resulted in 3 hit seasons, and according to Robinson, although it hasn't been officially renewed as of this writing, a 4th is likely.
I'm not worried about it! I'm not worried about any of this!
And ironically, if he had immediately succeeded as a performer on SNL, none of it might have happened. Over the past half a century, quite a few of SNL's more popular and immediately successful alumni have had a lot less luck breaking away from the show and establishing their own brands. But Robinson's failure as a cast member encouraged him to sharpen his talents as a writer and performer, lean harder into his own comedic sensibilities, and left him free to define himself to the audience in his own completely absurd terms. So what do you think? Are you a fan of I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson? And if so, which is your favorite sketch? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.